Test this thing out. I got my driver here. Let's throw it in reverse. Backup camera works fine. Let's get us out of here. See if we can do this in one take. All right, don't worry folks. Just going in the driveway to test this out and then pulling it back in. So with it still in reverse, I'm gonna pop it into forward. Forward works. Turn that off. Let's put it in drive. Forward, reverse. Let's put it back into forward. And let's pull it back in. Okay, baby, you steer. A little bit more to the left. Tight squeeze. Front camera working very well. This must be an upgraded unit because it looks really nice. All right, let's back this up. Oh, I gotta override. There we go. Back it up. And let's shut it off. Whew. All right, what's up guys? Today's video, I'm gonna be busting open this Anytime backup camera that I just picked up. It's gonna be for the 2020 4Runner and up. Should allow me to turn on my backup camera whenever I want, even when I'm driving, and also adds a switch so that I can turn on a new front camera, which will be nice for pulling into garages, up to objects, and also for any sort of rough roads or off-roading that I might be doing. So this isn't gonna be an install video. It's not gonna be super in-depth. In fact, I'll probably link a better video that I'll actually be following in order to install this sucker. I think this is just going to be more of a vlog and just take you guys along for a ride. So let's bust this thing open and see what it's got for us, what all it comes with. New camera, so this is the premium Anytime backup camera setup. I think they upgraded the camera in the kit, so that's kind of nice. I heard the original one was kind of a potato, and a lot of people were buying a new one on Amazon, so hopefully I don't have to do that. But you know, in the future, if I ever do want to upgrade it, I think that's an option. So switch, the back of the switch, it looks like. This is the little adapter harness, all nice and heat shrink. So this will go to the back of the head unit. This is the new front camera, so that looks pretty nice. These are the RCA cables or whatever. This looks like the double-sided mounting plate for the camera. A little nut for that guy too. It looks like we've got everything we need. Let's go ahead and get started, I guess. So obviously one thing to note with the 2020 and up models is that you get this radar panel thing that everyone seems to love a lot. This is exactly where a lot of people put the front camera, and based on a handful of YouTube videos I've seen, it doesn't seem to interfere with the TSS, Toyota Safety System. So that's where I'm going to be sticking the front camera. A lot of people don't like the front radar bit, but you can turn it off if you don't want it. I'm sure that there's a way to disable it without having dash lights and everything. So if you wanted to just revert back to kind of a factory non-TSS system, you probably could. I really like it though. For longer road trips and drives, having adaptive cruise control is really nice. You just set it and sort of forget it, and you can cruise behind people. Obviously, it's going to have trouble when you're in like a highway environment with lots of different vehicles coming in and off of on and off ramps and whatnot. But if you're just cruising along and you use it kind of how you're supposed to use it, then no problems at all. And I have a 3 or so inch lift, and so far no issues at all with the system. So we're going to get that sucker installed and see what happens. All right, so it seems like you just pop off this upper panel, and that gives you access to the front grille. And then down below near the TSS radar thingy, I'll measure it out, find a good spot for the camera, and put a drill hole in there. Going to use this permanent marker to measure and mark the spot where I'm going to stick the camera. I've also got this little trim tool. This is just a Harbor Freight cheapo. They're a few bucks and they're really nice for not marring up your paint or plastic interior panels and whatnot. I've got two sets. One's a dirty set for like wheel wells and things like that. Another set is a clean set. This is a clean one for the interior. They're just nice to have. All right, so from here, we should have plenty of room to get down inside the grill. And then I think the game plan will be to route the wiring up and this way. And then most people just run the wiring through the grommet right there. So I'll try and do it nice and clean so that, you know, we don't have any risk of water or moisture getting into the cab. Shouldn't be a problem at all, though. Got my handy dandy tape measure, and I'm just gonna go ahead and use this to find center. See what we got. 9.75 inches. That puts us at 4 7/8. So here's 4 7/8, boom, right there. So I'm gonna go ahead and mark that. All right, so what size hole do we drill for this? I'm just gonna use these cheapo calipers and one of those. So it looks like 0.305. And I'm lazy, so I'm just gonna take the calipers with this thing, stick it in that hole. Looks like 5/16, how to do it just right. And we should probably grab one for a pilot hole. Just pick one of these small guys. All right, we're back over here. That's what you get here in the Pacific Northwest, driving down the Forest Service roads with little trees and bushes and stuff growing down the center. It is what it is. All right, let's drill ourselves a nice little hole. This is a funky angle, so should be all right. Even if it was like an oblong hole, I don't think it'd be a big deal. So. Easy. Let's get the bigger bit. And my drill battery's dying. 5/16 at an oblong or at an angle. Woohoo! All right. Well, drilling through plastic is easy. Let's see how the camera fits. All right, moment of truth. Boom! Look at that. That's gonna be super hidden. So one thing I did just notice, these mounting pads for the front camera, the kit comes with a handful of different ones, and as you can see, they're wedge shaped with different sizes. So the one on the far right, it's not a wedge, it's just flat, so if you just wanted to mount it straight to the vehicle. The other ones are wedged. And my assumption is that this allows you to angle the camera depending on your vehicle or the field of view that you're trying to get. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave these off for now. There's a nut that goes onto the back of the camera and mounts it to the vehicle. Just gonna kind of run this down to the camera and cinch it up. And then I'll turn the camera on later and I'll see what the situation is. These aren't notched, so I'm gonna have to figure out, you know, what angle I want the camera to be at before I fully wire in the front camera, I guess. I'm not exactly sure how I'm gonna do that, but this is something that might be new to this new kit. I haven't seen it mentioned in any of the videos I watched on how to install this thing. So honestly, installing it level might be totally fine, but you know, I just don't know how wide angle that front camera is and whether or not it'll be pointed up, you know, down or whatever. So I guess I'll just hold on to these for now and we'll see. To run the camera wiring into the cab from the engine bay, a lot of people use fish tape or a coat hanger. Turns out I don't have any metal coat hangers. What I do have is this extra long heavy duty zip tie. So what I'll probably do is I'll just cut the end off here and tape it to this and then run it through the grommet, and hopefully that works fine. I guess we'll find out. All right, so we're in the wheel well here now. I already shoved the zip tie through that rubber grommet that I pointed out in the engine bay a little while ago. I got it backwards. So The way that this is gonna work is I'm gonna be pulling the wiring from the cab into the engine bay using my heavy duty zip tie. So you can see here it's sticking out. I'm gonna tape my wiring. This wiring is gonna be connecting up to the camera that's up at the front. So I gotta just tape it to that little piece of zip tie fish tape and hopefully yank it through that hole. It was a tight fit, so we'll see how that works out. I'll get you a better shot here. So right here you can see where the zip tie came through up at the top, and then it's just running down out. Plenty of room, really easy to access, so if you ever had to add more or something like that, it's probably a good spot for it. I've got just a little bit of WD-40 on my fingers here. I don't want to use anything else. Just gonna kind of lube that up a little bit. All right, moment of truth. See what happens. And the zip tie just popped off immediately, so gonna have to try and do it again. All right, this is the new setup. I'm gonna go ahead and push it from the cab into the engine bay, and I used a ton of electrical tape and really secured it this time. So hopefully that works. It's got a little bit of WD-40 on it just to lubricate it through the hole, and I guess we'll see if that works this time around. This is pretty girthy for that tight grommet, so it's kind of tricky. We got it. This part came through just fine. This second little nubby guy that I sort of forgot about, that's where the fish tape popped off, or the zip tie popped off, but I was able to yank it through. A little sketchy, you know, pulling on wires, but hopefully I didn't damage anything. I didn't have to pull that hard. The hole was already lubricated with the WD-40, so now I can just pull this sucker through basically as far as I need to, which honestly might be somewhere right around there. So with our wiring here, there's a couple different options depending on how you orient your front-facing camera. So if it's like this, or if it's, you know, vertically mounted, you can snip different wires and it'll flip the image. Kind of neat. So I think with my current setup, I won't need to do anything. I'll have to double check, but we'll cover that up with some electrical tape. So for this guy, we'll go ahead and connect it. Jesus. All right, so what a lot of people like to do is kind of route the wires back here behind all this stuff, just kind of along the fender and then under the radiator support. I think what I'm gonna do instead though, just for maybe a little cleaner look, is I'm gonna come up right here, so you'll see a wire, I'll try and hide it, and then I'm gonna run back behind this black plastic panel and then run up behind the core support up to the front. I think it'll be a little bit cleaner. It's not, you know, a big, crazy, hardcore custom install or anything, so if I have to change it later, I can. It's got a bunch of slidey guys. They're all exposed except for the one in back. The one in back is hidden, but it slides off just like the rest of them. Got there, so no tools required. That's nice. And then you've got this nice little channel right here, so you can see I've got my HID ballast and stuff, all my wiring kind of tucked in back there, so it's a little bit more hidden. Nice leaves and crap. So yeah, I think I'll run the wiring up to here, and then snake it through this bit, and then maybe I'll pop down, I don't know, right here behind the HID wiring and just go under the core support and up to the front. I think I'll actually work my way from the front back. So the next step here, I need to remove some of these trim panels so I can get access to the party mode blank. Let me see if I can show you. It's right there in the center, right underneath the push to start button. To do that, I'm gonna have to remove a 10mm bolt from this guy over here behind this plastic panel, and one 10mm bolt behind this little hidden piece right here. So let me see if I can get those apart, and then I'll also have to pull off some of these plastic head unit trim pieces and hopefully not break anything. Alright, as you saw, that all came apart relatively easy. I followed one of those videos on YouTube. The sketchiest thing was probably those panels on either side of the climate control area. Was able to pull off the push to start button, and this has our blank right here, which apparently is for some sort of weird party mode, but I don't have that, so I'll be popping that blank out and using it for my camera setup. Okay, let's take a look at this. We should be able to just pop this guy out pretty easy. There we go, our blank. Let's take a look at our switch, our new switch setup. Okay, looks pretty nice. And this should, look at that, beautiful. Okay, all of this will go into the back. And then these wires are going to have to engage with, well, various other wires. So I'm gonna have to take a look at the instructions and see what to do next. So I disappeared for a few minutes. As you can see, things got a little bit more complicated. The kit didn't come with very good instructions. So luckily the pins on these connectors are pretty unique to the actual connector, so I was able to figure out which plugs went into which plugs on the aftermarket harness. These guys in all the videos I saw were labeled. They were not labeled on mine, so I kind of guessed, and I guess I got them right. Obviously everything's loose, so if stuff didn't work I would be able to unplug and plug things back in, but it kind of made sense what went into what. And then down here, I've got my switch, which has 6 different wires coming out of it. And then I have a bunch of wires coming out from the different harnesses, the relay that's back there, etc. So I got all those wired up. Like I said, this is not a tutorial video, so unfortunately I'm gonna have to leave it up to you to do your research. But as you can see, it was kind of a pain in the butt. I did get everything figured out. It probably took me, I don't know, 30 minutes or so. So if you're kind of handy with wires and DIY and you have some patience, it should really not be a problem for you. I think you'll be able to figure it out just fine. So I ran all the power, the camera power from the front came through on the wiring over to here. All the power is getting 12 volt from the head unit. So there's a 12 volt power wire coming out of the relay with the kit that I hooked up to my switch and everything. So, and then I did have to make a ground. So I mounted a ground just to like a random chassis ground or whatever, and ran one single ground wire up to the plug and then plugged in all 3 grounds for this entire kit into one. So it worked out pretty well. And then I went ahead and crimped and heat shrunk and did all that. So now that I know it works, I'm probably gonna try and clean this whole dealie up and then see if I can get this looking like a vehicle again. All right, update. I cleaned up the wiring and got the push to start button panel and everything all back together. I've got the head unit in. All the wiring was kind of bundled up and cable tied together, not zip ties, but like little twisty ties. Everything's all kind of clean behind there. So at this point, everything works, which is awesome. I'm gonna get all the panels back on. I've got all the kick panels and everything pulled apart. I'm gonna have to clean up some of the wiring because there's one wire running back there behind the panel or pedals, and these all kind of go together in a sequential order. So I'll get all those bolted on here in a second. So catch up with you guys in a minute. All right, we're back. So everything in the vehicle is back together, as you can see, totally normal. It wasn't too hard to put back together. I mean, everything just snaps and pops back together, no problem. So pretty happy there. So Let's go ahead and I'll show you how it works. So you can see I've got the button down there. If I just power it up, accessory mode, the button does light up if I turn on my lights or whatever, and then I can control it basically at any point. So rear camera, neat. Front camera, sweet. I just wanted to show you that it works, so neat. And let's go. I've got some stuff to show you up front. All right, well, like most of my projects, things have gotten a little bit more complicated than I anticipated. I was getting the nut that I have that interfaces with the back of the camera, and I realized I could not reach it. With this though, here, I can pull this back like that, and you can see the back of the camera. So hopefully I can reach in there and just snug it up tight. Real piece off wasn't too hard. It was a little bit sketchy, just like they always are, you know, but a little bit of firm pressure and it popped right off. So here you can see how I had the camera dangling just for test purposes. Now what seems like maybe the hardest part of this entire install, I mean, the wiring was tricky, but not too crazy. Pulling interior dash pieces is never fun, but getting this danged nut onto the back of this camera bolt is a huge pain in the ass. So let's see if I can get it done. All right, before I button this up and all of this disappears, I just wanted to kind of show you. You got the wiring kind of coming up. It's kind of tucked away right here. This all gets covered by that shroud. So in here I've got it all zip tied and kind of hidden and managed. And then it's running along the headlight here, which will be covered by that plastic panel. And it should look pretty neat. So I'm gonna do a little research, find out what I gotta snip on this camera wiring to flip my image so that, you know, it's the correct direction and not mirrored like it would be if it was a backup camera. And then I'll throw all this together. Okay, so for me, I ended up cutting the white wire and the green wire. I think cutting the green wire removed the distance lines, like the parking lines that you might see in a backup camera. And then I cut the white wire, which flipped the image. So should be pretty good. So I'll just tape that up, and then we'll bundle this all up and make it look nice. All right, so one final test. We'll take a look and see how this thing works. Turn on the back, whoop. Turn on the back, works great. Got the parking lines, and turn on the front. Anyway, it works great. Clean install, looks awesome. Take that off. I don't think I caused any extra damage or anything in here, which is surprising considering you're pulling apart panels and stuff like that. It's always kind of sketchy. Nice and clean. And yeah, let's take a look at the engine bay real quick. All right, well, to wrap up install, you can see all the wiring is nice and hidden and clean. This big old panel covers everything, but I did tuck a lot of the wiring in under that radiator core support bit. So overall, I'm really happy with the way that this turned out. The camera itself, boom, mounted, looks great. The switch went in, looks factory, lights up. Overall, pretty happy with the kit, gotta say. I will say that it'd be nice if it came with more directions. install videos specific to different model vehicles. The wiring harnesses that came with the kit, they weren't labeled like a lot of the tutorials that I found online. So it would be nice if those were labeled. I was able to figure them out, so I'm sure you would be able to also. For me, doing stuff like installing the suspension in the vehicle was probably easier. Bolts, nuts, stuff like that, as opposed to dealing with like jamming your hands into sharp little contorted holes under the dash. Really, I hate doing wiring in the vehicle, like underneath the steering wheel in that area. So that's annoying, but it wasn't too hard. So I guess with that, we'll wrap up the video. My little monster here, he'll say bye. Say bye. Yeah, he has no idea what's going on. So see you next time.